Hello, everybody. This is GW. I just here to talk about retirement again, what a retirement day ought to look like, what it might be for the average person. Now, this is the third part of this. Is kind of a don't know that it's going to be a trilogy or more, but at least a trilogy because this is the third part. But before I get started, if you like it, subscribe, sign up down below, follow, whatever it is you got to do, send money. It's all good. It's something to look forward to for me. Anyway, I've done this here a little bit. I'm going to just kind of run over a couple things that I've talked about before. There's four things in general that a person needs to do when they are retired. You need to do this all the time, but you definitely need to do this when you're retired. You need to stay active. You need to stay healthy. You need to stay social, and you need to stay strong. You need to, I believe, Robert, or I forget the guy's author book was Outlive. And he said one of the most important things that a person had to do was be able to stand up from the floor. And that doesn't seem like that's that big a deal. And when you're 18, 20 years old and you cross your legs and you pop up and it's wonderful. But, when you're 75, 80, 85 years old, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So you need to make sure, actually something that is worthy of practice, to make sure that when you're sitting on the floor, that you're able to maneuver yourself to a standing position without any help, without any holding your hand on the side of anything. You need to be able to just stand up. And it takes a little practice. I hate to say that to everybody, but it really does. But it's worth doing. Now, there's another thing that I think is important on a daily basis. One is that, most days you should wake up without an alarm. And two, you should have an unplanned first hour. You got to drink that cup of coffee and just sit there. And in my case, I go watch the world go by on my front porch. And you try to keep the day as unscheduled as you can, but don't schedule more than 4, maybe 5 hours. If you schedule more than that, it becomes work. And you need to do something different every day, and not anything big, but just something that breaks the routine. I mean, today I went to the dentist. That certainly broke the routine. So let me now get into the part 3 that I'm going to talk about. And that is the thing that every retirement person that I know feels like they need to accomplish something in retirement. They need to do something that impacts life so that they still feel like they're a member of society and they're doing something good. But what does that mean? I mean, that is scary. I mean, you take a look at every age, but you have overachievers out there. And a couple of those that just come to mind real quickly. The first one that came to my mind was Grandma Moses. Started painting when she was well into her 60s or 70s, maybe even later, and become, an Americana painter and well known and had a 15-year career or something as a painter, maybe 20 years. It did some wonderful work, But before that, she was just too busy raising a family, doing what it is that she did before she was able to do that. Absolute overachiever after she retired. And then you have Colonel Sanders. Now, Colonel Sanders was Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was well into his 60s when he started going around with his secret recipe of herbs and spices for the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Obviously was a master salesman and obviously has done a wonderful job when he did that. And, now both of these folks are, of course, passed on, but overachieving as they're doing that. You also have, a very clear thing right now. Two things that are really clear right now. First one is apparently being a politician is a way to overachieve after the age of retirement because we have a boatload of elderly politicians who are in the Senate and the House, and unfortunately the White House, both the outgoing and the incoming, president of the United States is well into their 70s, into their 80s, and just can't think that that's a good way to do. But that is definitely an overachievement for that particular office. The other group that is overachieving is rock stars. Take a look at the Eagles, at the Rolling Stones, at Paul McCartney, all these people that are just out there still giving wonderful live performances on a regular basis and filling stadiums. And I mean, how long do you have to do that before you say, wow, that was a successful life? So you have these overachievers. Now that makes it really hard for everybody else to come up and say, okay, so if you're going to have this overachievement going on, so I need to have an accomplishment in my life. Well, I think that the fact that people say, I need to accomplish something, that pretty much sets you up for failure. So my thought is, what does that mean to accomplish something? So I think that every person needs to sit down and realistically look at what that accomplishment needs to do. Now, a lot of people will go into it and they will, be in a position that they're able to work with nonprofits and they're able to work with their church and they're able to do volunteer work and they're able to give back to the community and to other people and everything. And that is so worthy, and it absolutely is. But you have to think about it, in my mind, define your expectation as you do that. And I think that most people, when they define that expectation, they use the normal societal norms when they define that expectation for themselves. So if they're not volunteering a great deal, or if they're not concerned about different aspects of it, or they're not writing their life's memoirs, or they're not, in my case, I am, cataloging is not the right word, but I have a podcast separate from this where I put my dad's sermons and I try to update them into a more current time. But I use the same ideas that he was using as he did that. A lot of the same stories, a lot of the certainly the same scriptures and everything. So I'm doing that. I mean, is that an accomplishment? So you need to define that again with your abilities and your desires. I have friends who have taught themselves to be master craftsmen with wood or with metal or with glass or with different things as they do this, and they have just become so good at what they do. It's amazing as they work their way through that. So remember that when you look for these accomplishments, that you really can't worry about and make sure that other people are really happy with what you're doing. It has to be something that gives you pleasure, that internally lights your fire as you go through that. Now, this next thing may not be a big thing, but it could be that your accomplishment that you're doing is really a series of small accomplishments, and that you have little things that you do, that you help a neighbor in their yard one day. That's an accomplishment. That was a good thing to do. You help someone as they do that. Maybe you help a grandchild, learn how to do a math problem that they were having trouble understanding, but your breadth of knowledge allowed you to present a different way for them to look at it. It's one of those things that it's really good. It's really, really good. And I think that one of the primary accomplishments that we all should look to do is, if all you are is a good example to your family and friends of how to successfully live a life, doesn't mean you have to be a cajillionaire. Doesn't mean you have to have 6 homes on the all over the world. It doesn't mean that you have to have anything more than just, subsistence type living. But if your friends and family look at you and go, you're a good person, you really have done a good job. Seems to me that a person looking at you saying you are a good person, you're a fine lady, you're a fine gentleman, seems to me that that is a way to accomplish a meaningful something in retirement. So I hope that made some sense. I hope this work with retirement stuff. Maybe somebody will find this interesting someday. By the way, there is no science behind anything I'm just saying. It's just thoughts coming out of my head, and so hopefully no one takes any offense at this. But I hope you enjoyed it. So if you do, please send people this way. Tell people to watch this. Need to publicize this more. Get a few more listeners out there. But I enjoy doing this, so I'm going to keep it up. And I hope you all enjoy it. So have a good day, have a good week, have a good weekend. Talk to you all next time.